Greetings and welcome to the channel. This is Shotgun Shogun, and this is the Training Grounds. Today we are going to be talking about Alencia, the very angry dragon ant of Yuffie. Now, one of the things that I wanted to go over a bit today is because I love Elincia. I love using her. A lot of people when she first came out were very not happy with her because they didn't meet the expectations that they had for her in being another Charles. And a lot of people have been sleeping on this unit. It is one of my more used units and one of the more asked about on my streams, so I decided that, you know what, we're going to cover Alencia, one of my absolute favorite units, and I would dare to say one of the best bruisers in the current meta. You have Alencia, Little Queen Charlotte, and A Ravi as some of the top tier bruisers. Now you might be thinking, really, I don't see her talked about as much as I do the other two. Almost everybody's ML Ken, Little Queen Charlotte, A Ravi. Those are usually the bruisers you see slotted in. Well, I'm here to drop some knowledge on you about Alencia and why she is so strong, especially in top tier PvP. Now let's take a look at her stats. We're going to come down here. First off, let's take a look at her imprints, right? So her imprint concentration is health, and this is going to be really important because she does really well as she scales off of health. Now if you can get her up to triple S, unfortunately I only have one of her, so you can get up to 18% self imprint health. You can also leave your imprint unself imprinted, and you can give defense to the rest of the team. Now taking a look at her stats, she does come with 975 attack, 652 defense, 7054 health, 106 speed, which is actually not too bad, and the rest of her stats are pretty standard considering she doesn't really get much off of her awakenings. Now this allows you to build her very tanky like bruisers should be. Looking at her skills, her first skill is Eradicate. This batters the enemy with a 60% chance to decrease defense for one turn. Decrease damage dealt is increases proportional to the caster's max health. Now, because this does scale off of health, you are going to want to stack crit damage on her. Abilities that scale off of health and off of other things like that benefit much better from crit damage, so that means that you have a little bit more flexibility with her as a tanky bruiser, scaling off of health because you can build more health, more defense, more speed, and more critical damage. Now, one thing is, you are going to see here that you do get up to a 75% chance to hit with the defense break. This is really good. Very big chance to get this. You know, 75% chance is pretty huge for any S1 debuff, which means you are going to want to actually get a little bit of effectiveness onto this character as well so that you land these. If you do soul burn, you take that extra 25% out of the mix, 100% chance to apply your defense break. Now, do you remember this is beholden to effectiveness versus effect resist and the 15%, so you have a 100% chance to trigger the defense break. That doesn't mean it's always going to land, as happens to me quite often. Now her S2 is a passive. This is Noble Blood. This has a 25% chance to grant Mind Eye to the caster for one turn when attacked. On the caster's turn, when using Eradicate, this is her S1, while granted a Mind's Eye, this does activate Trample. Trample, this is going to hit the enemy, decreasing the cooldown of Genesis by one turn. Damage dealt increases proportional to the caster's max health. Again, this is another max health ability, meaning that this is going to do even more damage off of the crit damage that you have stacked. This will also go up to a 50% chance to trigger. So that means if you're getting hit by cleaves, you're getting focus fired, you are going to have a much higher chance to activate Noble Blood. Now her S3 is a 4-turn cooldown when invested in AoE attack. This attacks all enemies with Dragon's Might, dispelling all buffs. Damage dealt increases proportional to the caster's max health. Again, when you upgrade this, it also increases everybody's defense for one turn. So this is going to be really strong because a lot of people very much underestimate the defense buff and how much damage that it really can mitigate. If you have her on a team with an Arius and an Adamant Shield, or an Arius and a Little Queen Charlotte passive, you're not taking much damage. I've had Arbiter Vildred S3s hit me with greater attack buff, and if I have all 3 of those in play, it's really not doing much damage. Not only that, then I can just follow up right after with Little Queen Charlotte or with Alencia and just put him right back in his place. Not only that, but like I said, if you are hitting with Mind's Eye, right, you are going to be getting the cooldown on this. So it's a 4 turn. Let's say your next turn you get hit with the Mind's Eye. You're down to 1 extra turn. So it's going to be coming up the next turn. And then you're going to be yeeting people through the stratosphere, getting more defense buffs, doing more damage. And this is just really, really strong. So one of the big things that you are going to want to focus on, like I said, in stat wise, is you're going to want to focus on HP. But if you have HP and no defense, you're going to get hit way too hard. So those are 2 big things that you really want to focus on here. The other thing too is crit chance and crit damage. Now, a lot of times you just go, if you're trying to build tanky, you kind of forgo those a little bit, but in her case, you really, really do want to have those stacked. You want to get as close to 100% chance on everybody, but as long as you can get 100% chance on water units, it is pretty much the required that she is going to be bringing the pain to water units like DN, even though chances are you're not going to crit her due to her buff. But if you just yell that off, you can follow up and drop her down. Crow, Seaside Belle, other water units you're going to want to absolutely be critting. Now, for other things, you know, having 100% chance to crit is good, but it's not always required, as she is going to be there to really just straight kill water units, and that's what she's really, really good at. But like I said, being able to crit and destroy other units is also really phenomenal as well. The big thing here is that when you have the Mind's Eye up, that is literally 2 attacks, and you get this whenever this is up. It's actually really kind of like tilting when I get it on the first turn, but I have to AoE 3 because then you have a wasted Mind's Eye. Still, the other thing too is that you do increase your effect resist when you do have this, so that is also pretty good. So there is that. Now, when you look at artifacts, let's take a look at artifacts here. So her artifact is really good. Let's say if you don't have a lot of crit chance, right? So you can build this up. You can get yourself the crit chance that you need over time as you're playing through and everything along that. I personally, not a big fan. I don't like things that have to ramp up because a lot of times you're not sure how long the fight is going to go. So unless you can guarantee just a ton of turns, then you know, you really want to kind of hold off on this. Now, this does go up every time somebody else takes a turn. So let's say you do put her with some very, very fast units like a Cerise, a very fast Dizzy, or an Opener, Falconeer Quarry. This can stack up very fast. But again, you don't know really how long that fight is going to go. Now, this next one is going to be a limited artifact, and if you have it, phenomenal. If you don't, well, then you can't run this one, but that's dracoplate. Now, the reason why I like dracoplate on her is because not only does it increase her critical hit damage, which is something that you're going to want to focus on, but it also reduces the amount of damage that she suffers from critical hits. Let's say you can't field an adamant shield. Let's say you don't have Little Queen Charlotte passive. This is going to help you sustain and stick around a lot longer. This is going to make her a lot harder of a unit to kill. So if you do have this, and if it is maxed, if you even have it just in general, this adds a lot of heft and damage to this small package. Also, fun fact, the 30% critical hit damage that you can get from dracoplate actually will overcap critical hit damage. So you can only go up to 350 with dracoplate. You can overcap on critical hit damage, although it is a little tough to get her to cap with all of the other things that she has. Durandal is also a very good artifact on her, as she is going to be getting hit quite a bit, right? And if you do have this maxed out, this can allow her to get her churns a lot faster. Durandal is a very good warrior artifact just because it's going to be pushing up a lot faster. I use this every so often on her, but I did switch to dracoplate, and that is where I will stick. Honestly, if I didn't have dracoplate, this would potentially be one of the 2 artifacts that I personally would use, with the other one being Sigurd's Scythe. And the reason why I like Sigurd's Scythe is because if you do make her a little on the fast side, which mine is a little semi-speedy, not super fast, but semi-speedy for a bruiser, this is going to help her with sustain, right? Because she's going to be hitting hard. This is just going to make it so that if she is a little bit lower, she's going to be hitting a lot harder. And she's also going to be hitting a lot harder on the double up of the S1, S2. And it's going to be able to give her that hit points back to make her sustain more, because she's already going to be a little bit of a wall. Not many things can take her down very quickly, and this would help you much with your sustain. Now you also have Herberous Tooth, which after the changes, this is still pretty good. However, because you're not focusing on attack stat for her, this isn't going to be really that much. I mean, mine I think only has like maybe 2k attack. I'll show you to her after I'm done explaining all this, but honestly, you really kind of want to skip out on this one, as it's not going to bring nearly as much as some of the other artifacts like a Hell Cutter, right? So the damage that you're going to be getting from Hell Cutter, from Sigurd's Scythe, from even, you know, the crit damage or the crit chance that you would get from Elincia's Wrath would be a lot bigger than Herberous Tooth. Now, Herberous Tooth is good to just add that extra little bit of damage to the top that also ignores defense, but personally I have other places for Herberous Tooth, like Little Queen Charlotte. So this one is really good too, especially if you do have a lot of fast units. This can actually be better than Elincia's Wrath, just because you're going to be able to get a little bit more out of it a little bit quicker. However, it does go away afterwards. So whereas Elincia's Wrath sticks around, this also does give you increased attack as well as that critical hit chance. So depending on what you have, personally I would go for Durandal or Hell Cutter if you don't have access to dracoplate or Sigurd's Scythe. Sigurd's Scythe is kind of interesting. I haven't ran it too much on her. I may give her a shot, but again, I do have dracoplate, so it's a little tough for me to really want to play around with other things that much, but we might try it out. Now, I want to give you guys a little rundown of mine, how I have mine built, and why I have it built the way that I do. So this is my Alencia. This is the Alencia that I use almost exclusively in Legend RTA. I use her almost exclusively in Guild Wars, and she just absolutely destroys things. Now, I have seen other Alencias that are a little bit more tanky. They focus more on defense and health. I have went the option of focusing on critical hit damage, and the reason why is because I have support with me. Chances are she doesn't need to be my tank. I can slot 2 support a tank in her, or I can slot 2 support 2 tanky bruisers. I can support 1 slot, or I can slot 1 support, I can slot a tank and then 2 tanky bruisers, or a control unit. She fits into quite a lot of places just with this build, a little bit more on the tanky side. You do want to focus on health. The problem is if you focus only on health, crit damage, you're going to be low on defense and you're going to get hit like a truck. So the one problem that she does have a little bit is that you do have to kind of work within the stats that you have. Now, you will see that I have 14% effectiveness. That's because I run her with other strippers like Cerise. The damage that she does on her S3 is what I focus on, not so much the strip. Now, I know a lot of people are like, but why don't you focus on the strip as well? Like I said, I bring other people who can strip. Not only that, you don't need to strip buffs when they're dead. That's my saying when it comes to how I build my Alencia, because a lot of times if it's a squishier unit, you will just hit with the S3 with the Genesis, and it is just going to delete units. Like, that's just literally, it's going to just delete units completely off of the map. Also, when Mind's Eye is up, you do get increased effectiveness and effect resist. So I do technically, and I put this in air quotes, have 44% effectiveness when Mind's Eye is up, which chances are that it's going to be when I get hit before my first turn, most likely. Regardless, if it's any squishy unit that's not protected by a defense buff or something like that, chances are it's going to die. I've had her one-shot Arbiter Vildreds with her S3, and I will showcase some of my Legends RTA plays right now with her, but if you don't want to stick around after that, I'm going to break it down for you. Alencia is a very, very semi-underrated character. I don't see a lot of people using her right now in favor of things like A. Ravi, Little Queen Charlotte, ML Kens, which once you get higher up, ML Ken kind of falls off a little bit because it's easier to play around him. It's not very easy to play around a Alencia because even if, let's say she doesn't have Mind's Eye, if she gets that defense break on you, the one turn defense break, and a lot of people are like, oh, but it's only one turn, it sucks. If you have somebody following her up, that unit is deado. That's really just how it goes. So she's a very versatile, very big threat on the field, and almost exclusively my first pick when it comes to RTA. She fits into so many different slots. Like I said, you can put her in tanky bruiser with 2 supports, a tank, or two bruisers. Regardless, if you have a bruiser slot, she does an absolute metric ton of damage. I would put her easily in the same category as Little Queen Charlotte and A. Ravi as the big 3 of bruisers when it comes to high tier PvP, high tier RTA, because you're just not stopping her. I've had Sirmias try to int right into her, Kayron's int right into her. Her heft and her follow-up are what make her an absolute monster. But anyways, guys, that's enough for me. I hope you guys did like this. I'm going to leave you guys with some Legend RTA plays and highlights from my Alencia. I hope you guys did like this. As always, subscribe if you haven't, and share this out for people who may be sleeping on Alencia, which that's illegal. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.